Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Literature Made Simple. Today, we're going to do something a bit different than our usual should you read this book, I suppose, section of the channel. And what we're going to be doing instead is something I've seen on the internet, which I really enjoy watching, was rating the opening lines of your favorite books or classic books or books you want to read. And today, I have a couple of the classic books I own, which also happen to be my favorite books because I have a bias towards classic books. It's just that habit of mine. Anyways, I have, how many books do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 classic books, some as modern as 1950, some as old as, I would probably say the oldest one was written around the 1840s. So, yeah, around a century. All these books were written like in the span of a century. So, yeah, what we're going to be doing today is rating the opening lines of these classic books. But before we get in, I just want to mention I do have a bit of a cold, so please bear that in mind. If I look a bit under the weather and if I'm a bit sniffly, I'm sorry. And also, I would just like to point out, despite the fact that the episode is about judging these opening lines, you shouldn't judge books by their opening lines, and particularly classic books, because with classic books, they have a habit of like taking time to sort of get into it, if that makes sense. They have, like, it doesn't just immediately become an amazing book on the first sentence of the first page. It takes time, it's a slow process of the book, like, revealing its quality. What's the word? There are a couple books here which I haven't finished, but I'm not enjoying them, but I have a feeling that they're going to get better because people say they're good, and I have a feeling like if people say they're good, then sure there's some logic to that statement, right? Then again, opinions are opinions. It's up to you. And these are just my opinions. If you disagree with anything like with my list, please mention in the comments. I would love to hear your opinions on these classics because some of them are my favorites. Some I don't enjoy as much. So what we're going to do is, here are my books. The book at the highest book in the stack is going to be the best book with the best opening line, or has best opening line, and the book at the lower end of the stack has the worst opening line. You can't see the bottom book, but if it's not a good opening line, I don't think it deserves to have screen time anyways, so, yeah. Okay, so let's get right off the bat and start with the first book, which is one of my favorite books of all time, 1984. This was written by George Orwell in 1948, and actually was going to be called 1948, but I think the publisher changed it. Anyways, it's an amazing book, and actually, this is a very special case because I only recently, I had read this book about a year or two ago now, and I'd read the opening line, and I was thinking, oh, it's a pretty cool opening line, some nice imagery there, but then I realized recently, wait a sec, that is actually a more interesting opening line than I realized. So what I'm probably going to do, actually, considering that, is I'm probably going to come back to this book soon enough, because I really did enjoy it. I'm a sucker for political books. What's the word? So, yeah, the opening line. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Now, you might be thinking, if you're like me, what's so special about that opening line? Like, it's a good one, but it's nothing over the top. But it never occurred to me. Analog clocks don't have a 13th number. It goes from 1 to 12. And I only realized this recently when I was watching a video on this book. And I thought, oh my goodness, how did I not see that? That is so cool. Like, when you read this book, and if you're smarter than me, and you think to yourself, wait a sec, clocks don't have a 13th number, it immediately leads you to thinking something is off here. Something is not right. And I think that is an amazing way to open one of the best dystopian fictions ever, in my opinion. Probably the best. Brave New World, I haven't read it, has an interesting concept, but I think Orwell is just a master at his chosen field, which is dystopian fiction, political fiction, and I just thought that was a great opening line. So far, I'm going to place this at the top, but technically also the bottom because, well, it's the first one. So it's going to go there. You can't see it, but it'll be high up on the list, I have a feeling. So next one is Jane Eyre. I'm not enjoying this book. I'm slowly going through it. I have a lot of other books on the go. I'm not enjoying it, but as I said earlier, I have a feeling this book is going to get better. I have a feeling that it's going to take time to sort of find itself, to sort of reveal its quality, like one of those plot twists where the bad guy is actually the good guy or something. I have a feeling it's going to get better because people say it's good. So, not to mention, this is a lovely cover. I love this edition that I have. It's a real shame I'm not enjoying this book, because if I hate this book and I happen to have a lovely cover, that would be a real shame. Anyways, this was written by Charlotte Bronte, and as of now, it's not my favorite Bronte book. You'll see which one is later. Now, the opening line of this one, try and guess if I enjoyed it. There was no possibility of taking a walk that day. What do you think? I mean, of course it's going to go beneath 1984, that's a given, but I don't know, it might be at the bottom of the list. Like, when I read a book, I hope this isn't too, I suppose, demanding, but I kind of am looking for something that sets it apart, that makes it unique. When I read Agatha Christie, which I have over here, I look for logical thinking. I look for straightforward, direct prose. Christie's style. I enjoy that style. When I read, what's the word? I have John Steinbeck. I look for metaphors about American life. I look for descriptions of real people. I look for the thing that makes these authors unique. And I don't really think that's a unique opening line. It's very basic. It's nothing special. It's actually, I hope this isn't too controversial. I actually didn't enjoy this opening line so much that I remembered it very distinctly. So, it's actually, in my opinion, so bad that I actually found it memorable. Which I would argue is better than it being, alright, and I just couldn't remember the opening line at all. Anyways, the list we have so far is 1984 at the top, and Jane Eyre second and last. Next, we have The Great Gatsby, which I have a feeling is going to definitely oust Jane Eyre because I did not enjoy that book. Anyways, I shouldn't spoil anything, but I enjoyed this book. I really did. I love political fiction. 1984 is probably my favorite book. Anyways, the opening line. So, in my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Of course it's going to go ahead of Jane Eyre because it's unique, but I want to talk about why it's unique. When I read Great Gatsby, there's something about that line that really resonated with me. I think it might be the fact that that section of the opening line, in my younger and more vulnerable years, there's something about that I adore. I think it's just the fact that when you're young, you're so susceptible to opinions. You're a blank canvas. And you can be anything. You're very vulnerable to people telling you what to think. And it's almost as though F. Scott Fitzgerald, the author of The Great Gatsby, is telling you, sorry, that's the wrong way around, is telling you, make your own opinion. It's telling you to think for yourself. Like, particularly towards young people, I suppose, like, towards anyone reading his book. He might have, like, I don't know if he aimed at young people or aimed at people who were not so, I suppose, privy to the establishment, which was what he was trying to criticize, or, like, American capitalism. But I like the line. I think it was very profound. And I'm a sucker for metaphors. I love any author who uses flowery language, metaphors, or, like, subtext. And particularly authors who, like, have a political aim when they write a book. Anyways, this one is more philosophical, less political, which I think is a nice change. Now, if you didn't see the bookmark, I haven't finished it. And if you didn't see the size of the book, well, there's a reason I haven't finished it. It's huge. Now, try and guess. It's not Moby Dick, and it is not Ulysses. It's War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Now, lately I've really gotten into Russian literature. I tried some Dostoevsky. I didn't enjoy too much, but I hear that the translation I got wasn't very good. Not to mention, I actually got a different Dostoevsky book, which I'm enjoying a lot more. Anyways, point is, I'm enjoying this book. I'm liking it. It's very interesting. Like, you see, if you're a history nerd, or you deem yourself a history nerd, and you're watching this video, please read this book. It is right up your alley. If you're someone who likes reading, likes history, it's a perfect mixture. For me, I am fascinated by the fact that, like, we get to see people's lives and how people, like, real people, react to these huge historical events, because the entire book is basically this mixture of fiction and reality. We get to see people who didn't exist react with events that did happen. And the book talks about the Napoleonic Wars and like Napoleon and all the battles, all the invasions, all the, I suppose, discussions and debates that were happening in St. Petersburg and Moscow to do with Napoleon. It's just so fascinating seeing the world these Russians lived in during the Napoleonic era, seeing how these rich Petersburgians, which I'm going to coin that term, lived during this time. I'm just fascinated by it because, like, more often than not, I hear a story. I would look at history. I would research things on the internet, and I would hear, like, Battle of Auschwitz was Napoleon's magnum opus. But it's interesting to see how people would have actually, like, reacted to these events. Like, I don't often enjoy social history, which is how, like, people lived during historical periods, but it's interesting seeing how these characters who don't exist basically live in a world of events that I'm fascinated by. Anyways, let's get into it. Volume 1, Book 1, Chapter 1. Now, if that doesn't tell you this book is going to be huge, I don't know what will, apart from... anyways, well, Prince, so Genoa and Lucca are now just family estates of the Bonapartes. I really enjoyed that. Like, it's not as surreal as 1984. It's not as, I suppose, profound as The Great Gatsby, but it's efficient. It's delightfully efficient, I think is the best way to describe it. It's not wasting time. It's not, like, slowly building up to what this book's about. It's Tolstoy doesn't have time for that. He has time. Like, he wants to talk about philosophical aspects of history, so he's just getting into the fact of the matter. This story is about the Napoleonic Wars. It's about the Russians during the Napoleonic Wars. It's about how they lived, and it's about the battles and the people that were there. And I really enjoy that. It's almost as though Tolstoy is, like, just telling the reader, this is what it's about. I don't really care about the plot. I care about my argument and my philosophy, and I want to talk about my philosophy. I don't care about the plot. The characters, I don't care about them. I care about my beliefs. And don't get me wrong, I don't know if Tolstoy like actually believed that, but I always got that impression, and I really enjoyed that. It's very argumentative, and I just enjoyed it. I don't often read books that are straight to the point. The Great Gatsby is a good example. It's I guess around 100 pages in, you could figure out what's like. You might be able to figure out the true meaning of this book, but like War and Peace just gets straight into it. No time to be wasted. It's good. I think it's better than The Great Gatsby, but I don't think it's as good as 1984. The imagery in that opening line, 1984, is just too good. Now, we have Jane Eyre at the bottom, The Great Gatsby third, War and Peace second, and 1984 first. Now, I have two more books here. One of them is a classic from my childhood. I really enjoyed it. I have very fond memories of it. The other one I actually think I read this at a perfect time. It's very gothic, very dark, brooding, and mysterious, and I read it when I was like 14. So, I was in a right it's a teenage. It's like teenage fanfic. It's like, yeah, basically, it's young adult like fiction from the 1840s is basically what this book is, and I love this. And of course, I am talking about Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. Now, if you know that Charlotte Bronte and Emily Bronte were sisters, which they were, you might be surprised. You might think, oh, well, you didn't like Charlotte Bronte, how come you like Emily? And if you've read both books, you probably can see the difference in their writing. Emily is very flowery, lots of lovely descriptions of the moors, lots of... It's all just very sort of surreal, I think. Whereas Charlotte, I think, I haven't finished her book again, she's much more of a realist. She prefers realistic characters in a realistic world, and from what I've heard of the plot, it's a bit odd, like it's not realistic, like it wouldn't happen in the real world, but it's rooted in real world events, whereas after reading Wuthering Heights, I genuinely thought, am I reading this wrong? Like, because some of the events that happen in this book are just insane. I love this book. I like, the characters were all amazing. I hated them all, but they were all great. It's very gothic. Now, the opening line, what we're here to talk about. What's the word? So, yeah, the book I really enjoyed, but the opening line, I don't recall if it was good. This might actually be a good example of how opening lines might not be very good, but the book itself might be a cheat. There's a lot of... Wow, aside with this. Okay. Sorry, there's a lot of... I don't need to know a biographical notice. I want to know the opening line. There's an editor's preface to a new edition of Wuthering Heights. Jeez. Okay. Wuthering Heights, a novel by... Oh, Ellis Bell. I didn't actually know that Jane wrote this under a pseudonym. Anyways, 1801. I've just returned from a visit to my landlord, the solitary neighbor that I shall be troubled with. Okay. It does two things I enjoy. The first bit... sorry, I'm sick. The first thing I enjoyed was the first part of the sentence, 1801. I really enjoyed how, like Tolstoy, Bronte just dove right in there. It's not like trying to slowly allude to when this book is taking place. It takes place in 1801, or like the beginning. If you read the book, it takes place earlier. What's the word? It takes place in this era. This is the character that's narrating. This is what's happening. This is the story. What's the word? And I enjoy that. I enjoy opening lines that are to the point and yet, I suppose, profound, I guess. Don't get me wrong. War and Peace isn't too profound, and neither is this. This isn't like a profound book. It's just good fiction. What's the word? But yeah, I enjoyed that 1801 whole sort of directness. And the other thing I enjoyed was that bit that basically said how, like, he's going to be troubled with his landlord. It's very, again, direct. It's right to the point. It's like the landlord is a bad person, or the narrator is a bad person, or possibly they are both bad people. Either way, it's setting the stage for an interesting plot and an interesting scenario, which I enjoyed. Now, I don't think I can rate it higher than The Great Gatsby. I feel that's a bit rude to the quality of the first opening line of that book. I think I'm gonna have to rate it like second lowest, which is a shame because it's such a good book. I'm trying to think, do I want to change The Great Gatsby? It's a nice opening line. No, I don't. I think, okay. Now, our last book of the day is J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. You thought I was going to say Lord of the Rings, didn't you? No. We might do that in a later video. I have it somewhere back there. But how would I describe this book? I hate this adjective. I barely use it, but I would describe this book as cute. If you want to read a book like a fire, and like you're very cozy, it's all nice and relaxing, please read this book. Everything about The Hobbit is just about this nice little adventure that the characters go on. You know, it's good fantasy. It's a nice way to break into fantasy, in my opinion. It's nothing too like over the top like Lord of the Rings. Especially what I did. I read The Lord of the Rings as one giant book, which I think was a horrible idea because I was like 10 or 11, and it was really overwhelming, and I ended up not really enjoying it too much, which I want to go reread Lord of the Rings. But yeah, I love this book. I love Bilbo. He's still my favorite Hobbit. And I love this cover, by the way. It's really nice. Yeah, it's just a good book. And I actually remember that the opening line of this book was very nice. I remember it too well. Here it is. Wow, jeez, everything else literally goes from, like, all these books have, like, introduction, editor's preface and stuff. This one just goes straight into it. I love that. Anyways, Chapter 1, An Unexpected Party. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. I like that. It tells you what the writing side of this book. Not to mention, what's a hobbit? What is this, and why are they living in a hole in the ground? I love that. It really is just, it's telling you that, like, if you're the kind of person who's fascinated by new worlds, different lands, different people, then you're going to enjoy this book. Sorry. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. The opening line, it's just very nice. Yeah, I don't think I can say anything else. It's a nice opening line. It tells you what the writing style is going to be like. It's very to the point, very basic, yet still very efficient. I think it's good. Okay, now, the big question, where will our last book go? It's definitely not topping 1984. I think that was bound to win from the beginning. It's just such a good opening. I think it's going to go between The Great Gatsby and Wuthering Heights. So, yeah. Let's go to our list again, I think. So at the top we have 1984, and I personally enjoyed it just because of surrealism. I love it to the ends of the earth. War and Peace, I think it's straight to the point, efficient, which I enjoy. We have The Great Gatsby, which isn't efficient or to the point, but I just find it profound, and I love that section in my younger and more vulnerable years. That part, that sentence, or that section of the sentence, to me is just incredible. I love that. Then we have The Hobbit, which I just did, but maybe I just have some bias here because I just have such fond memories of reading this book, but I just enjoy the opening line. I think it's a fascinating line, isn't it? You know, I think it's great. Not to mention, I forgot to mention this. I love how Tolkien, especially in this book, says things like that a hobbit just lives in the ground, like without like saying. You might be surprised to hear that. No, he literally just like says it in such a manner and tone that like implies that this is completely normal. Like, and he continues this sort of style of writing throughout the book, which I really enjoyed. It's very witty, in my opinion. Wuthering Heights, which I enjoyed it. It was a good opening line, very to the point. Not as good as the other ones, but in terms of the quality, the rest of the book probably better than things like A Hobbit, sadly. And then Jane Eyre, Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. Jeez. This might change one day, maybe, who knows, but as of now, I do not enjoy this book. Maybe, like, if I one day read the whole book, I might appreciate the opening line more, because I doubt I would appreciate the opening lines of, say, The Hobbit or, Wuthering Heights as much as I do if it wasn't for the fact I've read them. Anyways, that's my list. Please, if you disagree, mention in the comments. Please give me your list. And if you have any, I suppose, ideas for videos, please tell me. I would love to hear them. I'm always trying to think of cool new things to do on this channel. And I really enjoy watching these types of videos on the internet. So I have tons more classic books that I want to get into. So I'm probably going to be doing another video like this. Might be diving into some Christie, some Shakespeare, some Steinbeck. And yeah, if you enjoyed, please subscribe. Please check out my other videos. And have a good day. Goodbye.